What's going on? I'm Spartacus with the Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network. This is the Theater Room, episode 15. It's not going to be a too long of one because we really don't have a lot of Marvel or DC announcements to talk about. I have a couple of things I want to kind of go over. Basically, I'll give you a quick view of a show that just released that is, becoming one of my favorite shows, but probably because I like some of the actors in it a little bit more than everyone else does. I do want to go into a little bit more of a deeper dive into the Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer. We did a reaction video for that yesterday, and while it looks good, I kind of went through it again a few times. I kind of slowed it down, and then I did some research to see what maybe some things that I missed, and I just kind of want to bring all that information to the Gen Nation. And then last week I did a little bit of a deep dive on the Black Widow movie, help people get kind of caught up as to where she was in the MCU, where she is currently when the movie starts, and some of the new characters. I want to do the same thing with Loki. There's not a lot of new characters announced, so it's not going to take that long, but I'll do the same thing with Loki at the end. So let's just kind of dive right in. But right before I do, we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitch. Join all the groups, join the Discord, Gen Nation, GGEN, or GGE Network really is probably the easiest way to find us all over the place. And jump in, let us know what you want us to talk about, let us know what games you want us to play. There's a group of dads who just kind of want to have some fun and make it a little easier for other parents to get like a one-stop shop of all their kind of nerd needs. So with that being said, let's just get right into it with Mythic Quest Season 2. So if anyone has seen Mythic Quest, the first season, Mythic Quest is essentially The Office, but the company is a video game studio, and they basically run the biggest online multiplayer game. Picture like a World of Warcraft. It's made up. That's the name of the game, is Mythic Quest. And the show is all about the people who work behind the scenes on the game and what they have to go through. The creator, and this is what I was talking about me liking some of the actors a little more than a lot of other people. I'm a diehard It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. I'm a fanatic. I love all the actors in that show. I love the writers. And Rob McElhaney is the one who wrote this show. He created this show just like he created that one. And he is the headliner, essentially. He plays the guy who basically came up with the whole idea of the game, runs the whole show. And spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen season 1, by the end of that one, he essentially admits that maybe his ideas are a little outdated and he needs a little help. And he takes one of the characters from that season, named Poppy, who was the head programmer essentially, and promoted her to kind of be the creative lead with him. And this season is going to be all about them trying to work together, but also butting heads. After the episode that was already aired, you can already tell she's going to go through her own little evolution of, everyone liked me, even though I was like a little manic in the first season because I wasn't the boss. But now I'm the boss. That kind of shit doesn't fly. And he's going to be kind of teaching her the ropes, probably a lot more than she expected him to. Anyone who's a fan of cricket, Rickety Cricket from It's Always Sunny, he's in it. He plays a big role. Anyone who watched The Community, Danny Prudy is in it. He plays the finance guy. He's almost like if there is a villain of the show, he's kind of like the villain. He's the one who he's all about money. And then a lot of the other side characters are, so far, just after one season, well fleshed out, funny characters. They all have their own little quirks. And, season 1 was about introducing these characters, getting us to like these characters. Season 2 is going to be about getting us to root for them a lot more and kind of making us fall in love like they were our own family. I feel like the first episode already kind of feels a lot more, not grounded, that's not really the right word. It's more of like these characters or these actors are fully comfortable in those roles. They know the characters well now, so it feels like it's a little more natural for everybody to be in character for the entire episode. It's not a long season; it's a half hour, and excuse me, and it's worth watching. It's on Apple TV. Again, if you want to wait, I think it's 8 to 10 episodes. Last season was 8 episodes, but then they released episode 9. Or I'm sorry, it was 9 episodes. Then they released episode 10 a few months later, right in the middle of the pandemic, and then they released an 11th episode about 2 months ago, just to kind of round out the season, I guess, prepare us for them going back to the office for this season. So yeah, Mythic Quest on Apple TV. Take a look and let me know what you think. And I will be following along. And kind of starting next week, I'll talk a lot more detail, more spoiler-filled reviews about some of the things going on, theories and such. I'll give people time to kind of catch up before I jump into that. So next, really, let's talk about Venom. Let's just kind of jump to that first. So I mentioned it in the reaction trailer, and I mentioned in the reaction trailer that I was a fan of the first movie, but I feel like they missed the mark. So I'm a huge fan of the Venom character. I vividly remember the Amazing Spider-Man cartoons, coming home from school and running to the TV to watch them. My favorite storyline was the whole Venom storyline leading into Carnage. I thought Sam Raimi set up the perfect Venom set of movies. The Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, J. Jonah Jameson's son, they point out that he's an astronaut. He's going out into space. So to me, and then they never revisit that. Now, I understand Eddie Brock is kind of synonymous with Venom, but the way it was set up, it would have been perfect for him to come back from space in Spider-Man 3, bring the symbiote. Spider-Man has to save him, kind of steals his spotlight a little bit. That would create the jealousy. And then, it's not Eddie Brock, but you can just have him be the Venom for that movie series. They never revisited it. Instead, we got Topher Grace as Venom. And his Eddie Brock was introduced in the third movie, kind of rushed in there and squeezed into the movie. Definitely didn't do it justice. When they announced they were doing a Venom movie, I was equal parts excited and happy and sad or annoyed because I knew that Spider-Man wasn't going to be a part of it. And for me, Venom is synonymous with Spider-Man. I'm okay with him becoming an anti-hero, but he needs to start off as the villain and kind of be built up, essentially. Like, we need to see him do some bad things. We need to see him redeem himself. And the best way to redeem himself would be to team up with Spider-Man to fight Carnage. And we didn't get that. So, I kind of overlooked it. It was fine. Then I saw the movie, and while Tom Hardy is a good choice to play Eddie Brock, and his role, he was really the best part of the movie. His like kind of Jekyll and Hyde kind of shtick it was very fun in the movie, but overall, I don't know. It's just not my Venom. It might be an unpopular opinion, but it's not the Venom that I kind of grew up with. Not the Venom that I wanted to see. They finally got the look right. I love the voice they used for Venom, and I like that there was a little bit of dark humor peppered in there. By the end of the movie, though, I absolutely hated the way it ended because the whole fight was it Legion? I can't remember the freaking bad guys. This is the problem. I can't even remember the villain's name in that movie. But the whole fight, it was just two big black blobs fighting each other, and that's not going to make me happy. What I want is, a better story, a slower story. I mean, obviously Venom, it needs to be more of like a horror movie. Like Spider-Man should be the main guy, the hero, and Venom should be a horror kind of creature that's like kind of torturing him. You know what I mean? And the one scene in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 where when they're in the construction site at the end and Tobey Maguire is like looking around and he's realizing that he can't use his spider sense. He doesn't know where he is, and you kind of hear Eddie Brock whispering a little bit and kind of taunting him. Like, that's Venom, not this like kind of wisecracking, loud, obnoxious kind of character. But I'm willing to overlook it, in my mind, as long as at some point he'll interact with Spider-Man. There's a lot of hints, and I feel like you could see it in the Venom trailer. There's a lot of hints of this shared universe. So we know that in the Morbius trailer, we saw Michael Keaton as Vulture, and it's the Vulture from the MCU in that movie. We saw the mural of Spider-Man there's like graffiti in an alleyway, but that one also. If I remember correctly, that Spider-Man was the same Spider-Man that was from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Like, the costume looked like that. So there's a lot of hints that there is a storyline going on here that I think what Sony and Marvel have kind of agreed to is to kind of build up their own universes, and maybe the next big event movie will be a combination of the two. I hope we'll get some concrete evidence of that in Spider-Man Far From Home, because there's a lot of rumors of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. We already know Alfred Molina is in it. We know Jamie Foxx is coming in it. J. Jonah Jameson from the Sam Raimi movies was in Spider-Man Far From Home, or No Way Home. I don't remember what I said exactly. Zublexity says follow the Lethal Protector storyline instead of opening with the Spider-Man storyline was a miss. I 100% agree. I think you could have built to the Lethal Protector storyline, but instead they skipped kind of like the really, in my opinion, it's the best way to introduce the character into the movies and into the universe. It kind of screams to me that it's just Sony basically saying, we don't, I don't want Marvel to take all my stuff, and they just wanted to do their own thing. They made a lot of money on the first movie, so obviously it resonated with some people. And I will, hats off to them. I will admit that the trailer for Let There Be Carnage does look pretty good. I mentioned yesterday that, they're kind of leaning into the dark comedy a lot more, which is fine. Fits the kind of character they built. However, you can't, it's a very fine line. I said this yesterday too. It's a very fine line. If it gets too funny and too comedic, you completely ruin the intensity of the character. And really, you're not really supposed to feel comfortable. You're supposed to feel kind of not at ease. You're supposed to feel a little on edge, which is what Tom Hardy is kind of playing. But when you start throwing in a little too many jokes, and just like loud, obnoxious jokes, about him eating the girl, Mrs. Chen, I think her name is, that's a little annoying. Him making breakfast, that was kind of funny. But to me, the breakfast part, when he throws the breakfast on the table and says, ta-da, that was too much. Eddie trying to kind of go about his morning while the symbiote is just reaching for food and stuff. That's the funny part. I feel like you should have stopped there. We didn't need the kind of punchline of, here's your waffles. That's just a little weird to me. But let me just kind of go through. I have a whole list of stuff here that when I went through the trailer, I noticed. So I did like that there was a quick shot that said, for no rules, no eating people. That was just kind of a funny little joke to me. That's a visual gag that I think works. And then it's interesting to me that almost a second later you see him holding that what looks like a robber or a thief or something, and he's about to eat him as Venom. So who knows if he sticks to that rule. I know that this movie takes place roughly about a year and a half after the first movie. Andy Serkis just confirmed that in an interview. So I guess this is technically we're watching a Venom and an Eddie that have lived together and that kind of are getting used to each other still, but they kind of know what to expect. We talked about the breakfast thing, so I kind of skipped that a little bit. The whole Mrs. Chen thing. So I guess, we're at a point now where we don't need the secret identities. We really don't need people to, pretend superheroes don't exist or that they don't know who's the big hero that keeps saving everybody. So I don't hate the fact that she's just aware that Eddie is Venom or that they're one and the same. The little line at the end of the trailer where he's like, you don't want me to protect you, or she's like, what, are you gonna not protect me anymore? That's not a horrible way to go. It kind of adds an unnecessary storyline when you start introducing like secret identities, and it opens up a lot of plot holes of when they have to run away from a scene of the crime in order to come back as the hero and stuff like that. So I'm more than okay with them kind of adopting that strategy. The MCU's done it for over 10 years now. Besides Spider-Man, it's fine. I did notice, and this is something that was pointed out, I kind of came across in a YouTube video, that there's, when Eddie walks into that like Quick Mart or bodega, there's a picture of Stan Lee on like a magazine cover. So it's, I guess, the new version of the Stan Lee cameo, which is nice. Zuplexity says this Venom is closer to Flash Thompson, Agent Venom with the humor. You know what? That's true. I actually didn't think of that. It's a good point, and I'm wondering if that's kind of what the whole goal is. Now that you say that, maybe that's what they're going for. I mean, if that was the case and just make him Flash Thompson, I'm a little bit of a stickler, you know what I mean? So if it's going to be Eddie Brock, I want to see the Eddie Brock that was the photographer that had the issue, or the journalist that had the issues with Peter Parker. But that's just my opinion. I mean, if it's good, they can win me over. I will go see it with an open mind, but it's got to be good and they have to do it the right way. And I'm picky. I'm a little bit picky. I'm getting more and more picky as these movies get closer and closer to the comic book characters that I've kind of grown up with. I do like, let's just kind of, speaking of Cletus Cassidy, I do like that he's not wearing that silly wig that he wore at the end of the first Venom. I think Woody Harrelson is a fantastic casting choice to play that character. He knows how to play crazy. He knows how to play intense. If you've ever seen not Rise of the Planet of the Apes, what's the last one? War of the Planet of the Apes. It's not as manic as I would want, hopefully, Cletus Cassidy to be, but his intensity in that movie, if you watch that movie, you can see Woody Harrelson really play a menacing kind of character. So he can really do it, and just in the trailer alone, you can see that he's leaning in to the more manic kind of psychotic acting or behavior of the character, which is what I liked in the comics and in the Amazing Spider-Man show. So I'm excited for, I think that's a good choice. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I feel like Woody Harrelson's little portrayal and just the teaser has almost won me over as being all in for this movie. I don't know if I'm fully all in. I'm like, like dipping my toes in the water right now because he's getting me, but I'm ready to dive in. If I see the longer trailer, they can really kind of get me to kind of dive in fully. So one thing I didn't really like is this whole, I don't know. I'm curious, and they'll answer it in the movie, so I can't answer it now. But I'm curious, how does Cletus Cassidy, what is his connection to Eddie Brock that he's like kind of infatuated with him? I'm sure it'll be something like Eddie, maybe a story he wrote somehow got Cletus arrested or got him caught, or Oh,
I couldn't hear what you said.
I just activated my watch. I don't know how I did that. So they'll explain that in the movie. It seems like a little weird to me. Like, what are the odds that these two kind of get have a history, but that could be explained, so it's not a problem. I am very curious, and I was questioning this yesterday with Scythe, who was doing the reaction video with me on the trailer, how Cletus gets the symbiote, however you want to say it. It looks like they're injecting him to put him to death, and then I don't know if it's a piece of the Venom symbiote, or if it's a piece of, or if it's some random symbiote kind of takes hold. Maybe we're gonna find out that he was an experiment from Riz Ahmed's character in the first movie that they thought had failed, and maybe it was dormant until whatever they do to him in this movie. I know Zuplexity says after credits scene from the first Venom, Eddie goes to interview with him. I remember that, but even in that scene, it seemed like there was a history there that they never touched on. And I don't know if in this trailer, if the Eddie going to the prison is just an explanation of that scene, or if it's him revisiting the prison for a second time after his visit from that movie. Again, though, that's not my biggest complaint, because, they'll explain it in the movie, so I just got to wait for the movie to come out. One thing that I did see online, and I don't know if anyone saw this, but there's a quick shot of the Daily Bugle, and you see the Daily Bugle sign is the same symbol, and like just even like the letters of the words, it's all the same as it was in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. So that's a big hint of the connected universe, the connected overall universes, I guess I could say. And if you slow it down, when he crumbles up the paper, you kind of get a quick glimpse of an article about the Avengers. So I'm wondering if it's going to end up coming out after Avengers Endgame that this Venom movie takes place in a timeline that was essentially where the Avengers almost failed, or and I don't think failed is in the sense that Thanos snapped away the entire existence and rebuilt it like he said he was going to do in Endgame. They failed to just even bring everyone back, so half the population was still not around. That still can open up a lot of plot holes. There's a lot of potential there. There's also a lot of potential issues, but we'll have to kind of wait and see. Again, I'm hoping that in No Way Home we get some more definitive kind of. We're not going to get answers, but maybe we'll get some breadcrumbs, something to just kind of put us on the right path and let us know that we're thinking correctly, and get us excited for what's to come. So we know Michelle Williams is in it. That's not a big deal. I don't think there's really not much else, it looks like in this one in particular, Venom is more of like the anti-hero. He's saving people in the neighborhood, which is fine. There's really nothing else. I'm curious to see if this is going to connect to the Morbius movie. But otherwise, I did think, I will say, just to kind of end my little Venom 2 rant, that the quick action of Carnage kind of using the tentacles, going a little berserk, and the quick action and the quick shot of him at the end with the full-blown tentacles out and just roaring and they got the look down. In the comics, obviously, and in the cartoons, he's a little bit brighter, a little bit more of a solid like red, but he looked freaking good. Suplexity says Carnage looked sick. Absolutely correct. He looked awesome. They have the look right, and I think, just judging off the first teaser, I would say the acting of the human part of Carnage, and then the look and the way he's behaving that we've seen so far of Carnage is even more on the money than Tom Hardy as Venom. Tom Hardy is a great actor, and he's not a bad choice for the role. I don't know if I like the choices he's making for the character, but it's not so bad that I don't want to watch it. We'll give this one a shot. But anyway, we'll keep an eye out for the full trailer. I'm sure we'll get one more trailer before the movie comes out. It's not going to come out. It's not going to take very long. So we won't have to wait till forever. It comes out September 24th, 2021. So I'm actually surprised they even gave us a teaser at this point. They should have just given us one full trailer, maybe a couple of TV spots as we got closer to the release, and just let it out. Right now, and you know what? I didn't look this up, and I should have. I don't know if it's coming out in theaters, if it's a video on demand, or if it's going to be a little bit of combination of both. I would think it's going to be both, honestly. At this point, by the time September rolls around, more and more theaters will be open. So, yeah. So that's my take on the Venom 2 trailer, or Venom Let There Be Carnage trailer. And then the last thing I want to talk about before I end it for today is the Loki TV show. So last week I talked about Black Widow. Just kind of give everyone a quick kind of refresher on the characters in the movie and what's going to happen. We'll kind of do the same thing for Loki. Now we don't have as much to talk about. We basically know Owen Wilson is playing a character named Mobius, not Morbius. We know this Loki is not the Loki that we saw in Avengers Infinity War. So just as a quick refresher for anyone who maybe hasn't kept up with all the Marvel movies, we were introduced to Loki in Thor 1. He was Thor's adopted younger brother. Turned out that he was not just adopted, he was basically kidnapped from the Frost Giants, so he is part Frost Giant. He was raised in Asgard. He was always jealous of Thor because Thor was going to be the next king and kind of was praised as Odin's first son, and he wanted to be king. He hatched a plan in that movie. It failed. He came back in Avengers, the very first Avengers movie. We didn't know it at the time, but he was working for the Chitauri, or working with the Chitauri, who he knew were answering to Thanos, and essentially his job was to take over Earth. The reason for taking over Earth was just to give Thanos, I guess, another stomping ground. They really never explained it. He failed in that movie. That was our first intro, our first hint, or we were flat out told that Thanos was involved. Next time we saw him was in Thor: The Dark World. He was imprisoned on Asgard, but Thor's mother was killed in that movie. And, Loki did have a good connection with Thor's mother, or his mother, his adopted mother. So, he helped Thor defeat the Dark Elves in that movie. He gave what we thought his life, during the middle of that movie. By the end of it, we saw that it was just a joke, or not a joke. He faked his death, so that he can essentially do something with Odin and pretend to be him and take the throne. So a bunch of years passed between that movie, and the rest of the Marvel movies that came out. We get to Thor Ragnarok. In Thor Ragnarok, Thor finds out about Surtur essentially being prophesized to destroy Asgard. He goes back to Asgard, realizes something's not right. Loki's pretending to be Odin. And in that movie, Odin dies, which definitely affects Loki. Loki is, throughout that movie, essentially keeps trying to be the bad guy, but you can just see that it's like, he's just kind of inspired by his brother. The good guy's coming out of him. By the end of it, he's full blown with Thor. He's now a hero, not a bad guy. Still selfish though. Then in Avengers Infinity War, it starts off with him essentially giving his life to try and protect his brother and kill Thanos. Avengers Endgame, the Avengers go back in time, the remaining ones. They try to take the Tesseract from the 2012 Avengers right after they beat Loki. In that screw up, essentially, Tony Stark drops the Tesseract. 2012 Loki, who has not lived through the Dark World, through Ragnarok, through Infinity War, he takes the Tesseract, disappears. We don't know where he went. So this show picks up right after that. Essentially, him taking the Tesseract, and I don't know if he even knows there's an Infinity Stone in there, is messing with the timeline. And the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, we're finding out now, are in charge of making sure the timelines are not screwed with, that you don't constantly go back in time and mess with things. I'm sure we're going to find out that a few other things that the Avengers did in Avengers Endgame are going to cause problems and alternate timelines and whatever. And it seems like the whole storyline to this show is that they're trying to fix everything and bring it back to the way it was, or the way it's supposed to be. Now, I'm curious to know if that means that they don't want the Avengers to go back and get the stones and stop, 2012 Thanos or whatever, 2014 Thanos from coming back and killing him. I don't know what that's gonna do as far as Endgame's concerned, but I feel like this is a bigger show, or it's going to be a bigger show than Feige and Disney and the MCU in general have let on. I mean, the whole show has to do with Loki righting some of the mistakes or some of the branching paths that were created by him leaving with the Tesseract in 2012, right after the Avengers beat him. So there's a lot more to the show than we're being told. A couple of things you see. So there is a scroll. If you watch the trailer slowly, any of the trailers, there's a scene where Loki is basically being brought into the Time Variance's, I guess, headquarters, whatever you want to call it. And off to the right on the screen, you can see a scroll. So a scroll where what we thought were the bad guys in Captain Marvel ended up being good guys, or decent people, I should say. Doesn't mean that they're all good. But so there's a connection to Captain Marvel right there. We know that there's a connection to, or that he visits. It looks like Black Widow in one of the scenes. He's sitting there. And it kind of looks like, to me, it looks like he's somehow with Black Widow after she had sacrificed herself for the Soul Stone. And that's just me speculating. I don't know if that's true or not. So, Kang the Conqueror is going to be in it. Zuplexity just, mentioned that. So that's a big deal. I know there's a lot of talk of Patton Oswalt playing Kang, and he essentially looks like him already. So you don't even need to put a lot of makeup on him. And then, Owen Wilson, like I said, is playing Mobius. He's a member of the TVA, and I guess he's going to be the buddy cop kind of person in charge of Loki. And you could already tell the whole conversation about how he says to Loki, "I know you've literally stabbed like 50 people in the back," and Loki's like, "Well, I won't do it again." It looks like it's gonna be pretty much a funny dynamic. I like Owen Wilson a lot, so good to see him making his way into the MCU. And that's really all we have. There's not a lot of new characters announced besides Kang. Not a lot of big new characters, I should say. Besides Kang the Conqueror. Loki, and then we're gonna obviously have some cameos from other characters. I feel like Black Widow is gonna make a cameo. I know Loki's gonna be visiting some of the moments that have happened in the past. Maybe we'll find out that him going back is inadvertently what creates some issues in the past that creates the heroes that we have now. I mean, who knows? Honestly, they could. My one concern is once you start introducing time travel and alternate timelines and time loops and all that kind of stuff, it can get confusing very quickly. You can create a lot of plot holes very easily without trying, and it could really kind of break a lot of the things we've seen already. But we have to kind of put our faith in Marvel. They have a giant team of people all working to make sure the continuity is as good as it can be. I know there's issues throughout the MCU, but none of them are really kind of like they don't break the whole formula. So that's coming June 9th, I believe, is or June. Did they just move it up to June 7th? It's a Wednesday. So we're not too far away from that, and that'll be a weekly show. So that's a big one. And that's really kind of it for today. I don't really have much else. Thank you to the guys who jumped in. Thank you for commenting. Please like and subscribe. Like I said at the beginning of the show, Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network, GGE Network. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, TikTok, what I miss? Snapchat, Instagram. We're all over the place. A bunch of dads, a bunch of fathers, a bunch of husbands, and a whole bunch of nerds, all trying to just kind of a one-stop shop, bring you everything, but a little bit of like that, our generational flair to it. A lot of trash talk and whatnot. And, I believe later on today, we'll see either Scythe or somebody's going to be online streaming. Look for Scythe-X, The Captain, and One Shot streaming on any of the platforms, playing Call of Duty. I'm playing Resident Evil. I'll be going back on live tomorrow night. After Resident Evil, I'll find some new game to play. I'm thinking maybe going old school at that point. Link Legend to the Past seems to be the winner on the Facebook poll. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Jump in, let us know what you think. Let us know what kind of stuff you want us to talk about. Keep an eye out for future interviews, tournaments, giveaways. As we hit some of the milestones on the subscribers and members, we're going to be giving things away. Keep an eye out for the announcements. Please, your support is great. We love it. We appreciate it. And I will see you guys. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you next Tuesday or on any other stream. Every Tuesday, I am here at 8:30 talking about all the latest and greatest in the movie and TV world and the comic book world. And yeah, if I don't see you on playing Resident Evil, I'll see you next Tuesday. GG everybody, and I'll see you next time.